In the heart of Europe, Hungary stands at a crossroads, balancing its rich history and traditions with the pressures and opportunities of a rapidly changing continent. Hungary is charting a path that increasingly diverges from the European Union's mainstream, choosing to assert its own vision for the future rather than simply following the lead of Brussels. Since joining the EU in 2004, Hungary's leaders have argued that deeper integration threatens their national identity and decision-making power. They believe that the unique culture, language, and values of the Hungarian people could be diluted by policies crafted far from Budapest. Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government frames its eastward pivot as a pragmatic response to a shifting world order, where new economic and political powers are rising. In their view, aligning solely with the West is no longer sufficient for Hungary's prosperity or security. Hungary is actively building ties with China and the BRICS nations, positioning itself as a sovereign actor rather than a follower of Brussels or Washington. These new partnerships are seen as opportunities to attract investment, diversify trade, and strengthen Hungary's global influence. This approach resonates with many Hungarians, who see EU policies on migration and social issues as out of step with their values. For them, sovereignty is not just a political slogan, it's about protecting their way of life, traditions, and the future of their children. For Budapest, looking east is not just about economics, it's a statement of independence and a rejection of EU centralization. The government argues that by forging its own alliances, Hungary can better navigate the uncertainties of the 21st century. This sets the stage for a complex, often contentious relationship with its European partners, as Hungary seeks to redefine its place in both Europe and the wider world. The clash between Budapest and Brussels is one of the most defining political dramas in today's European Union. At its core, this ongoing standoff is about more than just policy disagreements. It's a fundamental debate over the meaning and future of sovereignty in Europe. For Hungary, sovereignty is not just a legal term, but a matter of national identity and pride. The government in Budapest sees itself as the guardian of Hungarian traditions, values, and independence, especially in the face of what it perceives as growing pressure from Brussels to conform. Hungary insists the EU should be a partnership of strong, independent nations, not a federal superstate. This vision is at odds with those in Brussels who advocate for deeper integration and more centralized decision-making. Orban's government accuses Brussels of using crises, whether economic, security, or humanitarian, to centralize power and override national decisions. This is especially true on contentious issues like Ukraine funding, migration quotas, and rule of law mechanisms. Hungary's frequent vetoes and public confrontations are seen by its leaders as acts of defending the will of their electorate, not as attempts to obstruct EU progress. They argue that their resistance is about protecting democracy at home. The TISA tax proposal, designed to help fund Ukraine, is a prime example. Budapest frames it as Brussels forcing Hungary into unwanted conflicts and financial commitments that do not serve Hungarian interests. For Hungary, decisions on war, peace, and security must remain national prerogatives. The government argues that only Hungarians should decide when and how their country gets involved in international disputes. Every EU policy is scrutinized for its impact on national control, fueling a pattern of opt-outs, standoffs, and heated debates that often put Hungary at odds with the rest of the bloc. This unwavering insistence on sovereignty shapes Hungary's foreign policy as well, including its controversial outreach to the East and pursuit of independent partnerships beyond the EU's traditional sphere of influence. The war in Ukraine has exposed Hungary's rift with its Western allies. While most EU and NATO members back Ukraine, Hungary calls for immediate ceasefire and opposes arming Kiev, citing national interests and energy dependence on Russia. This stance has led to vetoes on military aid and sanctions, drawing criticism from both Brussels and Kiev. On China, Hungary rejects the EU's de-risking strategy, instead courting Chinese investment and supporting the Belt and Road Initiative. Budapest has blocked EU measures against China, arguing for engagement over confrontation. Critics say this undermines EU unity and gives Beijing leverage, but Hungary sees it as pragmatic diplomacy. These positions deepen Hungary's isolation within the EU, but reinforce its independent foreign policy. Hungary's eastern opening is most visible in its deepening partnership with China. The Budapest-Belgrade Railway, funded by Chinese loans, is a flagship project linking Central Europe to China's trade routes. Major Chinese firms like CATL and BYD are investing in Hungary's electric vehicle and battery sectors, drawn by incentives and a welcoming government. Hungary has also joined the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and expanded security cooperation, even allowing Chinese police patrols in tourist areas. These moves are celebrated in Budapest as economic triumphs, promising jobs and growth. Critics warn of debt, lack of transparency, and strategic vulnerability to Beijing. Despite EU concerns, Hungary sees its China partnership as essential to its national development. This alignment signals a deeper strategic shift, not just economic opportunism. To grasp Hungary's strategy, it's crucial to understand BRICS, a bloc reshaping global power. Once dismissed as a loose group, BRICS now includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and new members like Egypt and the UAE. The expanded bloc represents nearly half the world's population and a growing share of global GDP. BRICS challenges Western dominance, pushing for trade in local currencies and alternatives to the IMF and World Bank. Its appeal lies in non-interference and economic cooperation without Western political conditions. For Hungary, often at odds with its Western partners, BRICS offers an alternative pole of influence. The bloc's rise validates Hungary's multipolar worldview. It's not a threat, but an opportunity for Budapest to diversify its alliances. Hungary isn't a BRICS member, but its foreign policy increasingly aligns with the bloc's vision. The Orban government cultivates strong ties with China and, before 2022, Russia, sharing BRICS' desire for a multipolar world. Hungarian officials attend BRICS forums and seek partnership with the new development bank, positioning Hungary as a bridge between East and West. This strategy aims to secure new markets and investment, challenging the EU's push to limit exposure to China. Hungary is re-risking by deepening economic integration with the East, betting on BRICS as the engine of future growth. Domestically, this alignment bolsters the government's narrative of independent, successful diplomacy. It shows Hungary as a respected player, not isolated despite EU clashes. The BRICS engagement is presented as a forward-looking policy for prosperity and sovereignty. Hungary's pivot to China and BRICS has sparked major friction within the EU. Many see Budapest's actions as undermining EU unity and security, especially when Hungary blocks sanctions or joint statements. Critics warn Hungary is opening the door to Chinese and Russian influence, risking economic and political dependency. Deals like the Budapest-Belgrade Railway fuel suspicions of unsustainable debt and lack of transparency. Hungary rejects these accusations, calling them politically motivated attacks by a Brussels elite intolerant of dissent. Officials point to other EU countries' China ties and accuse critics of hypocrisy. The dispute has led to frozen EU funds and deepened Hungary's sense of being targeted. The result, a divided EU with Hungary's multi-vectored policy seen by some as pragmatic, by others as betrayal. Hungary's foreign policy is a high-stakes gamble, one that carries profound consequences not only for its own future, but for the entire European continent. In recent years, Hungary has charted a unique course, often at odds with its Western allies, and has become a focal point in the debate over Europe's direction. By positioning itself as a bridge between East and West, Hungary aims to reap economic rewards from both sides, while still enjoying the security and privileges that come with EU and NATO membership. This balancing act is both bold and risky, as it requires careful navigation of competing interests and shifting alliances. If Hungary succeeds, it could transform itself into a vital Central European hub, attracting investment and influence, and potentially inspiring other nations to consider similar strategies. The country's infrastructure and growing connectivity make it well-placed to benefit from increased trade and cooperation. However, Hungary's deepening ties with China present significant risks. While these relationships promise economic gains, they also threaten the very sovereignty Hungary claims to defend, and could leave the country increasingly isolated from its Western partners. For the European Union, Hungary's actions raise difficult questions about how to accommodate dissent within the bloc, and whether unity can be maintained in the face of diverging national interests. Should Hungary's model prove successful, it could encourage further fragmentation, accelerating the emergence of a so-called multi-speed Europe, where member states move at different paces and pursue divergent priorities. The Hungarian case is a real-time test of Europe's ability to balance national sovereignty with the need for collective action, and to adapt to a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. The outcome of Hungary's gamble will send a powerful signal, either that the EU can evolve and remain united, or that deeper divisions are inevitable as countries pursue their own paths. As of late 2025, Hungary's chosen path is leading both itself and the rest of Europe toward an uncertain crossroads, where the decisions made will shape the continent's future for years to come.